So a long time ago, I made a video that was the first video to really blow up on my channel, which was when the Thor Love and Thunder figures came out and people wanted to know how to swap the arms of Thor. So we're doing kind of a sequel to that in a way, which is an interesting thing because Hasbro came out with the Wolverine figure from Deadpool and Wolverine. And while he is using this costume throughout the majority of the movie, it's really like the end where he's going fully sleeveless that a lot of people are interested in doing. And that's what we're gonna take a look at today. So we're going to go through everything that you're gonna need to do this mod. I'm not sure off the top of my head right now if this is going to be a permanent mod or if you can reverse it or not, but we'll find out really, really soon. So let's just jump right into it and start with what you need. So obviously the first thing you're gonna need is gonna be hot water. I have just this hot water kettle right here. Really straightforward. It's just an on or off switch. I'll link to one in the description. It's not gonna be this specific one. This is just one I have at home, but there should be a decent one on Amazon. Otherwise, use whatever one you already have. You're also gonna need a container for the hot water because we're going to be heating up the figures to popping the parts out. And you may or may not need a pair of cutters. I'm not sure yet, but like I said, we'll find out soon. And then obviously you're gonna need some paper towels. And that should really be it. So let's go ahead and get these unboxed and we'll take a look at what we're looking at. So the arms we're gonna be using comes from the Legacy release that came out just before the Deadpool and Wolverine movie came out. And it's kind of fun because it's thematic. It makes sense because it is Wolverine already. And luckily it's also still readily available if you wanna use this one. So to start, we're gonna take a look at our figure. What's interesting to me is that at least when I watched it, I don't remember seeing black here. And even looking at some pictures online, it doesn't look black. It looks more like a dark blue to me, but this in real life appears to be black to me. And that is gonna matter later on as we do the mod. So let's go ahead and get started. So forewarning, you are gonna be working with boiling hot water, so please be careful. You have been warned. If you burn yourself, then I am not liable. And I'm gonna just let both of the figures soak in there. The head isn't necessary because all we're trying to do is heat up the arms. And really it's just a matter of time. So the hot water should make the parts malleable enough that you should be able to just pop them out. This isn't always true with every character. I believe that is true with these two particular figures, so that's why it's not an issue here. But otherwise your mileage will vary depending on which figure that you're trying to do this with. Now, when you take it out and you try to pop it off, because the forearms are also attached, there's a chance that those will pop out while you're trying to remove the whole arm from the torso. So keep that in mind. And again, it's gonna be hot to the touch when you're doing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this Wolverine. Okay, arms are out on him. That's great. We'll do this one too. Okay, we have arms out, which is great. So let's take a look at what we're working with. So here is the main body that we are going to be wanting to attach to. Here is how that looks, right? So that one's pretty straightforward. And this will just pop out like that. So this is the part that we're going to need to save because when he rips off the sleeves, it goes down the side, it doesn't go further in. And because of the design of the figures, because the figures have the butterfly joints, then you don't want to get the flesh color pieces in there because that would be less accurate. Here is what our donor body looks like with the parts removed. Now, comparing the parts, you can see that these are rather different. And this was the same problem that we had with the Thor Love and Thunder figures. What we want to take a look at is kind of where the bottom side of this is going to be compared to this side, since it needs to take place in the same area. So as you can see, what's nice is that it looks like the bottom of this one lines up with this one. And then there's this bit too, which may need to be removed. So my plan is to just try popping it in and seeing if it works without any trimming, because ideally this is something that you can do and then reverse it if you wanted to, but again, that's not always going to be the case. So back to the hot water, and I'm going to go ahead and just try to let this heat up again. And at this point, it's possible that the hot water is already cooled off enough that it's not going to be hot enough anymore. So you may have to heat up more water, pour it out, and then keep going. But I can actually still see some steam, so I think this should be hot enough. And I've gone ahead and already placed the black piece inside of the torso. So I'm just going to leave that there and pop this in and see how it goes. And that's how that looks, and that looks great. However, I don't want to call that a win just yet. I need to give this some time to cool down, because once it's cooled down, then we'll really know how it'll articulate and everything. So I'm going to cut the next probably few minutes out of this video to let this cool. Okay, so it's actually not been a few minutes. The problem, as I was trying to put on the second arm, the first arm came out, and it looks like it wasn't heated up enough to be able to push the whole way through. So I'm going to dump out this water, heat it up again, and try it again. Now I will say that it looks like we definitely don't want to trim that lower part of the flesh colored bit because that's what holds this in place. So that's a good thing that this now stays in place like that. So something to keep in mind. Okay, now I got fresh hot water. I'm gonna go ahead and heat up these arms again. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't think that we're gonna be able to get away with no cutting. However, we're gonna be able to do a very, very minimal cut. The problem is we need the flesh one to be as short as our blue one here. So we're only gonna cut off that amount. So I'm just gonna eyeball it, but I'll show you where I'm gonna cut. So I'm not gonna go quite down to this part. I'm gonna go like right here, about maybe like halfway into it. And hopefully that's enough. I'm gonna even it out a little bit. And there's my final cut. So I think this one, I have a good feeling about this one fitting. And it looks like we are good to go. That's sitting in there. So let's go ahead and cut our second one, and we're gonna do it at the same approximate position. And there we have him. Now, the nice thing about doing just that one small cut means that the arms are completely reversible. So you can definitely put these back inside of the original body and you should be good to go. The reason why they're kind of like extra long, I think has more to do with like how they're molded at the factory more than how they're actually used inside the body. So I'm not that worried about it. Now, the other part that we need to do are the gauntlets. So I believe these should be pretty easy. We're just taking that off. And from what I saw, the gloves should pop off. Gloves don't quite pop off, so let's go ahead and try adding some heat. Okay, so gauntlets aren't quite something that just slip right off. Here is the underside of the arm, and so there's a bit of molding from the gauntlet that then gets glued or fused to this piece. So once I heated it up enough, then I was able to maneuver this so that I could just kind of pull this off and then peel off that. So I didn't have to cut it, though you could obviously just cut that piece if you wanted to, because in order to get it onto the arms that we want it on, we're gonna need to cut that bit off anyway. But let's go ahead and do it on our second one. So here's the second gauntlet. I'm gonna hopefully be able to show you how I did the first one. So it's hot enough that I should be able to just pull it off the arm. Like that, so you can see how it's kind of maneuvered around, and then I'm just gonna try to peel it off. There it goes. So I was able to rip it off of there. And there's your complete gauntlet. So arm and arm, still technically reversible, so that's cool. Okay, so with this one, very straightforward. I'm just gonna trim off that piece. Yeah, I don't know how well that comes off, but That bit is now gone. It looks like there's a little bit left, so I might have to cut more down to that. But let's go ahead and try adding it to the arm first. So I'm just gonna heat it up again and then try to jam it onto there. I'm trying to avoid any additional cutting of any visible parts. So while that heats up, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this bit out too. Well, here's a close-up of that before I cut it. And here it is after cutting. All right, so now, because the flesh arm is not intended to have a gauntlet on there, so that means that the gauntlet's also a little small. That's why I'm heating it up to try to get it up as far onto the arm as I can. And that seems to be the farthest I can get it up the arm, which doesn't look bad. My only concern is like how deep it still has to go to get the hand in there, but the hand might fit okay. Nice. And the hand definitely clicked in, and that's super cool. That worked out great. All right, let's finish it up with our second one. So as you can see, it's really the same distance in terms of like depth. That to me seems concerning, but once the hand is in, then we're good to go. And there is our final Wolverine as he appears in Deadpool and Wolverine without the sleeves. And that wasn't too bad. I think that was actually relatively easy, easier than the Thor one, since the Thor one requires some amount of cutting on there. This probably would have been helped if you cut it a bit too, but I don't think it's too bad without the cutting. The problem is that these arms were not meant for this body, and because of that, the arms don't actually fully stay in there. So that took just a little bit of effort to pull out. It wasn't super easy, but I did have to pull a bit, but it does come out pretty easy. So that's the thing that you're going to want to think about too if you really want to do it this way. It's not the worst thing. It also means that this doesn't, like, you can see that kind of drops because it doesn't have the friction that it normally would have there to hold the arm up. So that's a thing that you're also going to want to consider. And then you're also going to want to consider the cost of it. So the retail of the original fodder body is $25. There is a company, which I can't remember the name of the company, but they are making these specific arms for this particular Wolverine in the Marvel Legends line as a, like a, you know, just a third-party thing that you can purchase and just pop in. And I think that's going to be 20 or 30 bucks. I'm not sure, but I'll put it up like right here. Not everybody's comfortable with purchasing something that's coming from China, and some people actually rather prefer to just use the Legends parts on a Legends mod. So I understand that too. So that's why we did this. I'm not totally sure if I'll keep this one this way. I might, since I've already done it, and then I'll just buy another one of these and another one of these so that I can have the originals as well. But that's the gist of it. I'm happy with how this came out, and I think you should really check out the original Thor video that I did that I'll link right over here.